How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Culture Junkies. This is our first episode, and I am Brand Man Budget Brandon, and then we've got Thomas the Tank Engine. How's it going over there, man?
Doing great. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Yeah, so we thought we would start this podcast about pop culture in general, kind of talking about all the things that we love. You know, of course, we love gaming, but we love a little bit of everything. I mean, you've got like a pretty significant, like, just pop culture in general sort of collection. It's something we talk about all the time.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about a lot is something we share a common interest in is music. So this is the first episode is definitely going to be something we both love, and it's going to be covering music.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about, albums that changed our lives and had like a significant impact on us as people. Just in general, maybe our outlook and kind of the way that we think or operate. There's always those albums that were just like a sort of milestone in your life. The first time that you heard it, you're like, this is what I needed to hear, or this is what, it's expressing, what I think or the way I feel, or it just like, it was a sort of outlet or something. Yeah, that sort of thing.
The music that you've bought multiple times over. I've bought something CDs multiple times, cassettes, and you just keep buying different formats over and over again because they mean that much to you.
Yeah, which has been a lot for me. There's been a significant amount of album releases I bought. I went through the vinyl phase, even going back to cassette, but even just, going way back, what I had and got on cassette that I then bought on CD and maybe bought like the live album, or, like they always had that sort of, okay, so one that I think of, this was pretty significant for me. So there was a Green Day release called International Super Hits. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I can remember with this one specifically. Got the CD for it. I don't think this was released on cassette. I think this was probably a little bit later. But there was an International Super Videos DVD. So you could watch the music videos for all those songs that were on like this compilation CD. I was kind of amazed. I mean, for the time, being able to watch those on DVD and not have to wait for like MTV to play something or VH1 or whatever, it was pretty cool for the time.
Yeah, you would see those combo packs at like a Best Buy, Walmart, things like that. And it was like, before TiVo and things like that, you'd watch it like once a week. If you're lucky, you would see like the making of the video. But when you have the DVD, you can kind of watch it whenever you want it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, look, we were just at your house the other day, listening to some Nevermind on the PSP UMD. It's like, it's a whole behind the scenes thing. I've seen that specific documentary, multiple times over. But just to think, like, the sort of formats that these albums have been released on over and over and over, even pushing, on a game system.
Yeah, I mean, they put them on DVD, then that opens up a whole nother thing with the visual media, with the audio. It's like you could have it on like weirdgame.com type systems and just weird generic things that like you see overseas, things like that. I mean, there's all kinds of weird formats that as soon as you put it into video, opens it up even more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Have you seen they released Pink Floyd, The Dark Side of the Moon on an NES cartridge?
No.
Yeah, this thing is wild. So it's, a chiptune version of the album, and it actually sounds really good. You can listen to it on YouTube, but there's a physical release of it. It's long sold out, but it's pretty interesting, man. Pretty cool stuff.
That's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's wild. So, I mean, I guess, to kind of get into the topic, what is one of the first albums, or just an album, that had an impact on you, changed your life?
Same way, where it's like it came out multiple ways. I'm a huge Nirvana fan, as you are, and the MTV Unplugged Nirvana album that they did, Oh, that was just absolutely amazing. And then they even had a couple years later, they had the DVD release for it. They had, I mean, it was on VH1, MTV all the time. That album was just absolutely amazing. Um, Getting to see it, live pretty much, months almost before he, wasn't around much, it
It's like
it was
4
pretty
months.
awesome. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was pretty, and looking back on it, it was even sadder because I remember watching it when it came out and then watching it after the fact, knowing what happened. It was kind of a little sad. But the songs were so deep and had so much soul to them.
Yeah.
Had a couple cover songs, the real songs. It had, had the full band with not just all three of them, but with Pat Smear, it was the full four.
Yeah.
It was just a great performance. The guitar from it's iconic. The sweater he was wearing is iconic.
Everything
Um,
about that performance.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean I've seen like in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame they have like the playlist and a bunch of stuff from the. At one point they had the whole setup with his guitar on donation and stuff like that from
Man, that would be
the
so cool to
stage.
see. That'd be so cool to see. Yeah, I mean, and that's in Cleveland, right?
Yeah, that's in Cleveland, and
We might
they
have to
had a
stop there. We might have to stop there when we
yeah,
go because I've never
and they
been,
do,
and
and
I
oh
wanted to go.
yeah, it's amazing. And they'll do like I've been there one time when it was like a Beatles thing, so they had tons and tons of extra stuff for Beatles. But I was there when they had a punk rock thing and they had a grunge area, and that was the
Yeah,
area I was mostly looking for. But
yeah.
they
So
had like they
yeah,
had the whole stage was like literally recreated with like his guitar. Like a
it's
lot of the
amazing.
clothing was sitting there on like mannequins and stuff like that.
That's awesome. I remember when they did that specifically. It's cool. They do like those themes. So they'll have like what do they call it? Like an exhibit. I know like Kosai does. You'll have a themed sort of exhibit. That's crazy. That performance. Yeah, like you were saying, man. So much soul. So much. Some of those songs you can really like kind of hear like the pain in his voice and like the you just feel the emotion that there was like raw emotion. Like the Meat Puppets cover is really good. Um, of course, David Bowie. Like everything that he did for that performance, I think the set list was phenomenal. I really like one that's kind of underrated that nobody mentions a lot, but I really like the performance for On a Plane. I think that was just amazing. That performance is phenomenal. That's
Vocal range was just it just was insane on some of those tracks. It was just up and down and just he gave it like his throat had hurt just after that performance.
Yeah. Even when even the cracks in his voice though, it's such a like a genuine voice. You know what I mean? Especially for that performance, it's just like so genuine. Like how a real person trying to sing that might not be he was very talented with his voice, but it felt more like a normal person trying. You know what I mean? It had that sort of rasp to his voice, like as if he may not have been like a natural singer, but it just he tried and tried and tried again. Like you can hear early on. I have a reproduction of the first cassette before he had the Nirvana name, Fecal Matter. That was their first thing, and I have like the reproduction cassette of that. When you hear him, you could see like the transformation of his voice. He just got so much better from that and Bleach to In Utero. It just completely it just amazed me. I think bringing up while we're talking Nirvana, for me, of course, Nevermind was, just like a cultural revolution with music. But In Utero was,
Yeah.
my first Nirvana album. I actually heard that and bought that first before Nevermind. Of course, I heard everything on the radio, but that was the one I bought first. And it was just, man, that album just changed everything for me.
Yeah. In Utero was my first exposure to Nirvana as well. And if there was like a live performance aspect that went with that album that I would have seen, it would have been the one I would have talked about.
Yeah.
That album was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I know both of us have the with the Lights Out box set. So
Yeah.
we've seen all, a lot of that, uh, a lot of those, songs that didn't get released that were like real deep cuts. And, I could go on and on about that because like some of my favorites are ones that aren't, on like the three major releases because I really like Incesticide. I think some of the songs on that EP was just great. Yeah, there's so many. There's so many, but I guess to mention another one in the grunge area because they are my two favorite bands would be Alice in Chains' Dirt. That that album is also just I think amazing to me.
Yeah, that's an absolutely amazing album. Alice in Chains, also another Seattle band, grunge out like around the same era, and didn't have the greatest of endings and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what it is with that whole era and I guess grunge itself is like just we kind of mentioned earlier the raw emotion that's projected in their voices and when they sing and let's I mean Lane's voice is just insane and when it's backed with Jerry like their harmonies when they harmonize it's like heavenly to me when they especially when you hear like on Rooster the harmonies on that I mean just crazy man just crazy.
Yeah, just it's like having like almost like LeBron in his heyday and Michael Jordan playing together on his heyday. I mean, it was just
Yeah,
the combo between the two was just like just worked perfect. And
yeah,
I wish that we could still have them to this day to to an old
of
age to
course.
see what they would kind of have because it was just for that time was just everything they did was just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, do you think I guess, kind of sort of talking on that, do you think that they would still well, I guess especially Kurt and Nirvana, do you think that they would still have the the cultural impact or like the relevance today? Do you think that they would still be, relevant or as known for I guess like this generation because there's been like a weird resurgence, right? Of like, Nirvana and all the grunge stuff in the past few years. I see a lot of like, whether they're listening to it or not, you could go do the name me three songs sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, of course, the t shirts, you can buy them in Targets. You see them sitting there now with Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and AC/DC. So they've reached that sort of status. But, they only, Nirvana only had 3 albums. So
Yeah,
it's
three studio albums, short amount of time. Yeah. I mean that's the same thing with like Sublime. I mean,
yeah,
literally
yeah,
when Sublime like when Sublime hit, their lead singer was already passed. Like
yeah.
as soon as like they were starting a radio play and stuff like that, it's like how are you gonna tour?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with them. It's that sort of impact when somebody dies too young. I mean, with Kurt was the sort of 27 Club thing. Lane died, what they died on the same day, which is crazy.
Mhm.
Set I want to say uh, years apart. He died in 2001, so yeah, like 7 years apart, same day, which is crazy. That's insane. Absolutely nuts. But yeah, it's that sort of thing that you get like this impact when somebody passes away young. Um, it's like they're sort of put on a sort of pedestal sort of thing. I know in like the past few years there was some of those rappers, like young rappers that all died pretty young too, and have kind of gotten this sort of gold star
Yeah.
status already.
I just looked one up because my son was interested in it. It was Juice World.
Juice World, yep,
And
yep,
I just actually heard of him because of one of his music videos was produced by like a guy from like YouTube essentially, where a kid started on YouTube and
yeah,
he did his video and it got popular. And I didn't know even really who he was. And my son mentioned him and I looked, he's like, oh, he's not around anymore. And I looked him up. I was like, man, he just is one of those you've heard of in the last few years. There's been so many of them. It's
yeah,
sad.
yeah,
And then and you're catching their music and their stuff that are after the fact and you're like, oh, this is really good and you want to see more and you want to see what's the next one coming out and it's like you look them up on Google and you're like, oh no, nothing else is coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what's crazy is I'm seeing all these wild releases here recently on Spotify that Tupac and like Biggie on them. So like there's something, I don't know what the deal is. But people are buying, I don't know if it's like buying the like I don't know what they're doing, buying stuff from their catalog that never got released and like rapping over it or what it is. But I'm seeing them pop up on the new release thing on there. And it's like this weird thing. It's been so long. How does that happen?
Oh, they were pumping stuff out from Tupac for a long time because,
Long time.
like, but that was also because when he got out of prison that last time, they literally like took him to a studio and just had him record over and over and over and over again. And they had
hundreds.
so much recorded.
Yeah,
I mean, he had so much stuff on the books, just like waiting. So it was like after he passed, they were like, "Yeah, he's still alive for years."
For years, they still had. I want to say there was like 4 major albums that still got released after he was dead. I remember the first. They got a term for it. It's like called posthumous or something release, like when somebody dies and they have like an album released after. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. He had hundreds of songs cataloged. Yeah, that's wild. But I guess dive into another album. What's something else? Even if it's not an album, maybe it could be just a song. But we were talking before. There's tons.
It's one of those ones where sometimes some of these we can just do a top 3 because I did albums basically in my mind because some of these albums just have so many good songs on them to where you can just say this is a good album. So like my next one is Californication.
Okay.
By the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
So you're talking late. It was like mid summer of '99 when that thing came out. It was the first album that I played. This first CD. I keep saying album, but it's going to be obviously going to be a CD. It was the first CD that I played when I was 16 years old, and the first time I drove in the car by myself. I like had like my T-tops off. I put Californication in, and just hit the road. That album was just absolutely amazing. You're talking produced by Rick Rubin. It was and it was the return of John Fustaine on guitar.
Yes.
So like the original guitarist, and I mean it was just they kind of weren't around for a couple years. That I think before it was like Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic or something like that, and it was just favorite. And that's like a real high energy, real like fast album for sure. And then when Californication came out, it had a lot of blues added to it. You can hear that strat from John Fustaine. It was just the drugs came through. Like I got you could feel just kind of goes along with kind of rock and rollers, I guess. It's like
but
that album was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic, I think was more up my alley. Of course, I listened to all of those. I mean, I've heard all of those albums, time and time again. I think for me, that one has held up the most and probably the one that I listen to more. But I think, with Californication, more stuff got played on the radio for sure. There were, probably 3 or 4 big singles off of that.
Yeah. There was huge ones.
Yeah. Under the Bridge was on that album, right?
Yes. Scar Tissue. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
It would have to be. And Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. That was wasn't that Dave Navarro?
Yes.
The Navarro era. Yeah. I'm not a big Navarro fan.
Yeah, I mean, even with that one, it's not something I go back and listen to all the time. I have a weird. I think I've grown away from Red Hot Chili Peppers a lot. I think with that newest single that got released, it wasn't that long ago. Oh my god, I can't handle it. Can't handle it. I turn the radio immediately. His voice on that song just annoys me so bad.
I can't understand a word he says anymore, and I'm not gonna.
It's terrible. It's not. It's not for me.
They did like a Super Bowl thing a couple years ago or whatever, and just like even that, it's just like I don't understand what he's saying anymore at this point, and I just want to listen to Californication and just like
Yeah, those
listen back to
drugs
prior.
best them got. Oh man, I don't know that older era of Red Hot Chili Peppers though. It was great, and they had a weird lineup change, throughout the years. Like I think what's his name returned like 3 times, left and returned like 3 different
Yeah,
times because he left
yeah,
again for like a long stretch,
yeah.
and then he's back on I think this newest release.
I think he's back again.
Yeah, so he's got some sort
I
of
saw
thing going
that.
on.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not. That's not. You got me the last time when he came back. This time, not so much. It's like
Yeah,
no, because they still. I don't know. Sometimes when you get a little bit older, you should maybe change it up a little bit. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Some things don't stick around. Another album for me that was definitely a game changer. Um, NWA Straight Outta Compton.
Nice.
I listened to that album over and over and over as like probably like a preteen, pretty early on. Had it on cassette, and I only had a few albums like here and there, and a lot of it was like hand me downs, like passed over to me. So along those lines, I had like one of the NSYNC albums. I don't remember what, but I had something NSYNC. Definitely something Backstreet Boys. I cannot remember the name of any of those albums, but I can remember the cover, and they were all pretty similar. All of them
Yeah,
just standing there.
wearing all the same clothing.
Yeah, yeah. But Straight Outta Compton, man, that album just changed it for me. So I always compare this. It felt like what they were doing was like punk rock taken into rap. You know what I mean? It was brutal album, but it was also a very truthful album with things that they were dealing with, and, talking about what was going on there in Compton. It was like they were rapping about daily lives sort of things that people are dealing with, but in like a really cool like sort of package. It's like, oh, I shouldn't be allowed to listen to this. Like my mom wouldn't want me to listen to this, so let's listen to it.
Yeah, I'm sure she was not very happy about it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, as a teen, you want to do anything to rebel. So anything you're not supposed to do, you do, or at least me. I mean, I think that's the case with a lot of people. But it's that album was just a game changer. I mean, introducing me to all those guys, Easy E and Dre and Ice Cube, and continuing to listen to like their progression moving forward. When we got the Chronic and the Chronic 2000, and moving on to some of those albums, and getting introduced to Eminem because of that. And
Yeah.
I probably listen to something off the Chronic weekly at least. I feel like something pops back on the playlist or gets suggested on Spotify, and yeah,
Yeah, when Straight Outta Compton came out, and I'll put that in this like same category as like the Snoop Dogg and the Nate Dogg type
yeah,
stuff that was coming from the West Coast, because I was exposed to a lot of stuff that was East Coast based. Ohio's so close to the East Coast. You would have, I mean, you had Run DMC and Public Enemy. I mean, you're
yeah,
talking just absolutely amazing beats, and just that was the political messages that you would get. And so I had like, the East Coast perspective, but it wasn't until like NWA, Snoop Dogg, all that stuff, that you're like, okay, what's going on in Compton? I want to go out to California. It's like they're
yeah,
talking about the beach, and just, I mean, it did, if you ever seen the movie Friday, I mean, it does look kind of bad, I guess.
sort
Man,
of.
they have palm trees though. So I mean, like, I don't know. Like, some of the stuff that they're rapping about may sound really bad and all, but you're not in Ohio shoveling snow, like, so maybe sometimes I'll switch that out. But it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
NWA was just an absolute game changer, especially for the time. And they were just in your face, trying to just push the button as much as they possibly could.
yeah. I mean that was a thing, right? Something that was it was not like over the top, but it's just like a very pretty brutal album. I mean, it was very explicit. just like, as young adults, it was something that just vibed with me, and I listened to a lot of the East Coast stuff as well, of course. Like, but it was NWA that put West Coast rap on the map. You know what I mean? There wasn't. I can't think of anybody for me that I heard of before them. You know what I mean? That I knew about or was aware of or had listened to or anything like that. But yeah, all the East Coast stuff was cool as well. Of course, Biggie and Tupac and just everybody, like you said, Snoop Dogg as well, and all those guys. It was super cool. But I think the Chronic was one for you as well, right? That we talked about before,
So
was significant.
yeah, so which it's really weird because like even though we're both in Ohio, like where you're from is a little bit more rural, and I'm definitely more city. So like one of my favorite albums of all time, the CD that I played on the bus like all the time was Chronic 2001. Dr. Dre, when that came out in 1999, was just absolutely amazing. It was the follow up that like I've been waiting for a long time, like kind of like your NWA. When Chronic came out, there was supposed to be a Chronic 2. I mean, he mentioned Chronic 2 in Chronic.
Yeah.
And then he would drop hints over and over again. When Tupac got out of prison, they did California Love, which is supposed to be on the Chronic 2. I mean, it was supposed to come out, but with all the stuff that happened with him and Death Row Records, there was a huge gap. And so when Chronic 2001 finally came out, he had Nate Dogg, he had Snoop Dogg, he had all the guys that he kind of wanted originally from the Chronic 2, but then he also had Eminem. And so that kind of Eminem already had one album already out, I believe, at the time, but it just kind of pushed him farther and farther. So
did he already have like a studio album? I'm trying to remember.
yeah, I think he had the Slim Shady LP or whatever that one.
Yeah, okay.
The first
yeah,
one.
You're right.
I think that was the exact same, few months maybe before or something.
Yeah.
I don't even think he even toured on it yet. So it was still early on in his career, and so like he pushed Eminem out to the masses even more. That album, like that CD, was just amazing. They also did like a tour that I got to go to when I was younger. It was Dre.
Oh no way! I didn't know
Snoop
about
Dogg,
this.
Eminem, yeah, Nate Dogg.
What tour was it?
It was it Up in Smoke? Something to do with smoke. But it was a Chronic 2001 tour.
Oh my
It was
god! I didn't
100%
know
the Chronic
this.
2001 tour. Yeah.
So who took you to that?
I drove. That was the second or third concert I went to.
Wow, that's cool, man. That's insane. Yeah. What? So how was it? How were they live at that point in time?
It was amazing. It was like a big party essentially, and like the acts that they had beforehand were really good. It was kind of like they had a group that was kind of like D12 before D12 probably that I've never seen before. But they all kind of did individual stuff, and then they all came out together and did stuff with Dre.
Yeah, I've never been to a rap concert ever. I've almost been to a few, but yeah, I've never went to one. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I don't know why it never happened. There was something. So there was some period of time, like as a teenager, as an older teenager, where I kind of fell out of listening to any rap. So when I heard like Straight Outta Compton, I probably was like 11, 10 or 11, and then there was just like a period of time I was just out. Like it was all rock, it was all punk rock, grunge, metal. It was all that for me. I just got sucked into that world. But speaking of which, another like impactful album for me was Black Sabbath's Paranoid. What an album, man. What an album. Just that sound that like Ozzy had during that period of time, and Geezer Butler's guitar, man, it was so haunting. It was so like mysterious. It was just like a sound I hadn't heard before. So that was very early on too, probably like 10. One of the first tapes I got as well. There had been like 6 tapes, which for me would have been like In Utero, Straight Outta Compton, Paranoid. NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and I believe I had.
Some Britney
God,
Spears.
yep, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I'm trying to think of the album though.
Hit me, baby, one more time.
Was that what the album was called? Because that was on it.
So.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So.
So whatever it was, that, and then I think I had Spice Girls cassette as well. I want to say I had Spice Girls cassette.
No shame. I had all that stuff. I mean,
I'm not shameful about it, man.
You're like, I had Backstreet Boys. I'm like, well, I had Millennium. I had like, but I was more of an NSYNC guy, so I had like Celebrity and all these. I like when people would look at my CD collections, it was insane because every week I was going to Best Buy and places like that to buy music.
Yep.
And I mean, I'd got pop stuff. I got rock. I've had almost everything but a country almost.
Yeah.
Until like eventually some pop stuff, some country became pop. So sometimes Shania Twain or something like that would pop in there. Faith Hill.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, for sure. Yeah. I've always kind of been all over the place, David Bowie, yeah, a little bit of everything. Elton John. Elton John's got, an unmatchable voice too.
Oh yeah, so like we're gonna talk about like albums that came out before. So most of the stuff I had, came out, during, my teens and things like that. Sure, but like, some of the albums I was exposed to, like one of the things that are when people ask me one of my favorite songs or albums, so Cyndi Lauper is one of my favorite artists of all time.
She's great.
Time After Time is one of my favorite. I think it's the name of the album. Her on multiple levels. Like my mom wasn't real big into music. My dad's real big into music, but my mom used to listen to Cyndi Lauper, and so I used to listen. I got it from her, and if you in the mid '80s, Cyndi Lauper was on my television on Saturday mornings when I'd watch wrestling.
Really?
There was this. I mean, that was the rock and wrestling connection. This was she was what launched Hulk Hogan. Like. There would be no Hulkamania. There would be no WWF era stuff if there wasn't for the rock and wrestling connection between Cyndi Lauper and the WWF. I mean, so she was like she was at WrestleMania. If you watch some of her music videos, she has Captain Lou Albano in them and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was like a lot of tie-ins. So like, when people ask me, I literally, a lot of times when I go to like a bar that has like the little play, DJ stuff, I play Cyndi Lauper. And everybody's like, who played that? It's not the bearded. They don't usually suspect the bearded guy.
Right. Yeah. It probably hides you from certain things. You could go up there and I don't know, play something crazy. It definitely could hide you from that. Like he's got a beard. Like he's a little more sophisticated than that. Yeah, no, Cyndi Lauper's great. There's so many. So I think I talked to you about this before as well. So a lot of the stuff that I had or was exposed to, like I said, like sort of hand-me-downs or was sort of given. So I had stuff kind of placed on my lap that was before my time, a lot of it. It didn't have a lot of new releases. I mean, like, I remember, like, a 98 Degrees cassette I got. That would have been more, period centric. Goodness, like, new albums on cassette. I can't think of many. There was a lot of stuff given, so a lot of stuff before my time. I had, like, and which I love this album, the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. Have you?
Yeah.
God, dude. So Pet
Sounds is trippy.
So good.
Yeah, Pet Sounds is what was his name? Brian. It's the Beach Boys.
Trying to think. Is it Dave?
Love. So it's Mike Love and Brian, the brothers. They have the same.
I saw them in concert too. 2018 or 2019. Yeah, I mean, they're a lot older. It was a good show. It was a good show. They played in Lancaster. Which is crazy. Yeah. But that was a cool show to see. That'd be like, seeing Vanilla Ice coming up here shortly.
Yeah, that's funny because the Beach Boys played in Groveport in like the 90s or something like that. Because I remember they stopped at a restaurant and signed like the pizza. But Vanilla Ice and Tone Loc, they are playing at the local festival to me here coming up.
Yeah.
That's got to be coming up real soon.
Yeah, it's in like I want to say would it be, it's not next weekend, right? Like
I
not
really
this
hope
coming
not.
weekend. Well, if it's not, then it's like the weekend after Game On Expo. It's like real soon, like real soon.
Is it after Game On or is it after
Oh goodness,
Southern Fried?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That would be like next weekend, like the weekend after Southern Fried. So
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. I want to look it up as we're talking, but yeah, Vanilla Ice, man. What about that Ninja Rap? You've got the VHS that has that on it, correct?
Yeah, I know. But when we were on the last car ride we were in, it came up on my Spotify.
Yeah.
Because I have the song on my Spotify. It pumps me up. You got the Go Ninja Rap. You just have you're gonna work out. Some people work out to certain music. That's what I work out to. Is Go Ninja.
Yeah, I was trying to look up when because they're doing the I Love the '90s tour, but I'm struggling to find the date here on Google. Oh, Obet's Zucchini Fest. Nobody's gonna have any idea what we're talking about. They're gonna be like a festival for zucchinis. I talked about this on the podcast that Ohio's got all these crazy festivals named after fruits and vegetables.
There's like 4 tomato festivals. There's at least 4 of them.
That's
a couple corn ones. Now the new one's honey. There's like honey.
There's a honey festival now.
There's like multiple honey festivals.
What? I did not know this.
Yeah, multiples. They're looking for a reason for anything. My local one is apple butter.
Yeah.
I've been to a
bunch of those. I'm trying to think of the one that's in Washington Courthouse. What's that one that they always have? I don't know. There's a bunch of them, and a moonshine festival.
That's the one I want to go to.
It's okay. It's cool. We got some good food at some of these places, but people are going to think we're crazy. There's a festival for zucchinis. Crazy. It looks like
some zucchini bread and zucchini beer.
God, my great grandma on zucchini bread, man. She loved it. Made it all the time. And I hate it. I hate zucchini bread. Not my thing.
Yeah, mine either. I eat it way too much.
Yeah, not my thing. It looks like Vanilla Ice will be playing on September 2nd, so we were way off.
Oh, so we're good. We got some time.
We got some time.
Zucchini bread, my grandma used to make it, and it used to look just like banana nut bread. It was the most disappointing taste. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, banana nut bread. And you take it and you're like, nope, some crappy vegetable. This is not the fruit I wanted.
Yeah, isn't zucchini like the worst vegetable ever? Like, I'm struggling to think, maybe, I don't know, some people would say Brussels sprouts might be pretty bad.
I don't know.
Zucchini sucks.
I like Brussels sprouts. Yeah, zucchini is not great.
I can eat Brussels sprouts, some butter, salt, and pepper. I can eat them. Zucchini, I don't eat at all.
I eat it on the grill. I just can't get it. Yeah.
Not my thing.
I don't want it baked in my bread.
Yeah, I'm good. Like, can you put something else in there? Like, anything else? For sure. So I guess, to mention another one, that definitely impacted me I mentioned them first at the beginning of the podcast, but one of the biggest for me was Dookie, Green Day's Dookie. That album I can still throw on now, listen to it completely all the way through, no stops, and just enjoy the whole ride with it. From the very beginning of that album, I think it majorly impacted me in so many ways, really got me into punk rock, which just impacted me in general, just kind of a way that I view things or feel, or sort of it helped express things that I thought in many ways. There's so many different bands. That's a whole rabbit hole, but Green Day really got me into that with the more, the pop side, the sort of, I guess what you'd call like the beginning of like pop punk. But that sound that they had, his voice is also like just very unique and different. The sort of nasally voice that he has, especially early on. That album was just amazing. Loved that album.
Yeah, I actually remember buying that cassette. Like, I didn't even. this is back in the day when CDs were super expensive, and which we can talk about in a second. But like I remember going and buying that cassette, and that album is still like one of my top favorites of all time. In fact, I've got a shirt or two that I've got the Dookie cover on the shirt.
I've got one as well.
When I was in school, I drew the cover of the album on my book cover on one of my books.
That album cover is just phenomenal. I feel like I spot something different out all the time when I see it.
Yeah, but it's something a child can almost draw. It's just like almost simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, that album and like you're talking about the voice, like his voice and stuff. Like it's it was funny too because now if you like listen to him, he sounds British.
Yeah, he does.
So it's like it's before he was British.
Yeah, he does. He has it's a weird thing. Yeah, I don't know that I've heard too many people bring that up. I guess I haven't been in the circle of somebody talking about it. But yeah, he's got a completely different voice now.
Him and Madonna.
Yeah, Madonna too. Yeah, that's a weird thing. They just get some accent from traveling the world. I don't know what happens with that. I do remember in an interview him mentioning something about his voice, that he hated his voice, and this was probably late 90s. I think it was around probably like the Warning era, which is another phenomenal album, but around that era of going on the talk shows and talking. I definitely remember him saying something about that. Yeah, I mean he's got a unique voice and it works for the sound, and very simple drums work, very simple drums. But Trey's a great drummer, but a lot of punk bands have very simple beats.
Simple, but he's steady, and the longevity of the band.
I mean, how many other bands keep every band member for the entire run for that long? Dookie obviously had releases before, but Dookie came out in '94. We're in 2023, and no member of the band. There's been no scandals of people leaving or talks of band members hating each other. I can't think of anything that ever came out like that.
There is one band. So I think he even has the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest original band still together. And it's also a band that doesn't have any scandal, doesn't have any
Rolling Stones.
No scandal. They've had a lot of scandals.
No, they have had a lot of scandals. Yeah.
So this is funny. So Weird Al Yankovic. So the Weird Al Yankovic and his band have been together for like 30, 40 years.
Really?
And it's the original members of the band. And there's like, I believe they have a Guinness record for the longest original members of the band or whatever. They keep putting albums out every couple years and all this other stuff. But yeah, that's another.
Wow.
I mean, that's another guy that, do you remember when like that Amish Paradise, Gangster Paradise, thing came out and stuff like that? I mean, he was gone for several years, and just shows you just came back out with more parody songs, and it almost like relaunched the parody song era when that came out.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think that would have been the first thing I heard from Weird Al. Then later, obviously, like Smells Like Nirvana. And then, what's the one about the car, like driving in the car? He's doing like the cover of that rap song. I can't remember.
He did White and Nerdy.
Yeah, White and Nerdy. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, because that video they're driving, and so White and Nerdy, that was a big one. Oh my goodness,
so like the generation, like so I was a latchkey kid and I went to a babysitter, and most of the kids were like a couple years older than me, and so I remember. When I was a little too young, Weird Al was popular because of like his covers of Michael Jackson, and Madonna and stuff like that. And I mean, oh my God, Michael Jackson and Madonna, especially Michael Jackson, was like everywhere, and it was like big, the most popular celebrity of all, on TV, on commercials, on the radio.
Yeah. No, definitely. I remember all those. What was the Beat It parody called?
Eat It.
Eat It.
Yeah. I think he did like 2 or 3 Michael Jackson ones.
I think he did. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the other ones were. Goodness. Not sure. Did he do one of the Man in the Mirror? Whatever.
Probably. He did the one I think where where he was walking on the steps, and then just like they changed.
I don't remember, but yeah, for sure.
That was early MTV.
Early Early MTV. I miss those days. Were you a TRL guy? Did you watch any
Yeah,
TRL?
it was on what 4 o'clock or 3. It was on
Yeah.
like 3:30
Yes. It
every
would have
day
been
or
like
whatever.
after school. It was after
Yep.
school hours.
Yeah, it was like 3:30 because I remember if I would get out of like 3:05 or something like that. So like by the time I just got home, it was time for the show to be on.
Dude, yeah. I mean, like, like Blink 182 being on. There's some timeless stuff with that, and like the singer from Simple Plan, and then he got like his own show. Do you remember that? Something about the remote control or something. What was
No,
that? He got it.
yeah, but remote control was on there. But that was even earlier.
Okay, yeah, not remote control. It was something control. Where like the parents would leave. The parents would leave for a
Oh,
certain
parental
period.
control.
Yeah,
Parental control.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, he got his own show, but then like like some 41, that whole pop punk era was like real big with that. Oh goodness, yeah, dude. I loved TRL. Introduced me to a lot of different artists too, and I remember Paris Hilton being on there, and all everybody, anybody that was anybody
Yeah,
was on
all the
TRL.
pop. Anybody popular was on there. No Doubt, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears,
Yeah,
Eminem,
Eminem
Fred
was on there.
Durst.
Fred, yeah, Fred Durst was on. Oh my goodness, that's like a whole other thing too with new metal. Um, this one, what album would have dropped? From Limp Bizkit? Was it hot dog
Hot dog flavored water.
Yeah.
Chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that was a whole thing too.
I think it was probably $3 bill, y'all, or whatever.
Yes,
They were,
yeah, with the guy like
yeah.
that, yeah. Yeah, that was. I think that was the first thing that I heard. And I'm trying to think of the one with the weird little character on it too, with like a. That was hot dog flavored water. Yeah, it had the weird drawing on the front of it, and I think it was sitting on like a pile of hot dogs or something weird.
Yeah, chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water.
Yeah.
You understand? That is just when somebody told me what that meant, I was just like, "This is just the dumbest thing in the world."
I mean, well, like their name is like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So that's a whole thing. If you want to learn about that, you have to Google that one. But
yeah, Google all that stuff. We're not going to Google that for you.
one right now. But yeah, I mean, there's so many albums that were just absolute game changers for me. Do you have any other mentions or anything else that you wanted to bring up on album wise or?
No, one of the things I did want to mention, like honorable mention type deal, is like sometimes when they blend old and new, you'll get it a lot more with like rap because of the way they sample older stuff. But one of the examples that I had was the Beatles the Gray album, which was the Beatles White album and Jay-Z Black album put together.
Yeah.
And I've always like when they mix like the old and the new.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you were talking about that the other day. I still got to check that out. I've not heard that. Never heard anything about that before, but that's pretty cool. Yeah,
but I got to.
Oh, go ahead.
I got to see that sort of stuff, early on, like with, like I said, Run DMC and Aerosmith. Like when that was that was my first exposure to Aerosmith was through Run DMC, and they did Walk This Way.
Yeah.
So when like you had the old stuff and the new stuff, and they kind of blended together.
That's funny that you mentioned Run DMC. My first exposure of Anthrax was because of Run DMC when they did that. God, what song was that? They did that crossover song.
Yeah, same. That was the same.
Yeah, that was
my first exposure to Anthrax was through Run DMC and Married with Children.
Love Married with Children. We're definitely going to do a sitcom episode at some point because there's a lot to talk about there. But I guess honorable mention, probably like Slayer's Rain and Blood was a big one for me. Slayer just in general, any of the first 3 albums, I think, but probably that one specifically, really got me into thrash and all that scene. I was definitely a Slayer guy out of like the big 4. I liked of course Metallica, all those guys. I liked all of them, but Slayer really stuck with me. I loved the like imagery and the lyrics and the sort of brutality with the lyrics. But like it's crazy with some of that stuff. If you listen sort of the things that they were talking about, I felt like some of it I kind of got like it's the same with Iron Maiden, like a sort of history lesson about things as well. So
That's kind of like why I like Iron Maiden so much. It's
yeah,
because
it's like a
it's a
big giant
good
history book.
story. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a story behind the music. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So definitely just the Slayer in general, but I think probably that album is honorable mention. But yeah, I mean, great first episode. It's going to be cool because we're going to be doing these in person. We've got, depending on when this comes out, a convention coming up, crazy week. So we're just trying to make things work with getting this out. But yeah, man, fun time.
Yeah. It was great.
Thanks for the cool discussion. Excited about launching this podcast. This is going to be a lot of fun, having different subjects and topics. We might go in and do a whole podcast on a question and branch off from there. I think it'll be cool. It's something different, and I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, stay tuned, guys. We appreciate you listening or watching the first episode of this podcast, and we'll be back soon with something else. We haven't figured out an exact schedule. We're thinking every 2 weeks, a bi-weekly sort of release with this one, considering we have the other two podcasts. So stay tuned. We got more coming. And again, thank you, Millennial Collector Ohio, aka Thomas, for doing this with me.
And thank you, Brandon, for having me.
All right, guys, you have a great day. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon.